All right. Good evening, everybody. So this was just the easiest way I could think to kind of walk you guys through what we did on Saturday. I'm really just going to talk you through it. I know Jessica is kind of presenting her own stuff, but the way that tonight will look is like you just listen to this, kind of follow along as best you can, and then I believe you're going to have some time just to kind of work on your notes. So that's pretty much what we did on Saturday. So I'm just going to jump right in. So this is our third session for contextual dimensions. Here we have the sign in. I believe she'll have one up there for you, so you'll do sign in with Jessica. To review, we've been looking at the contextual dimensions of our multi-dimensional science framework that we've been looking at all entire year. The first session we did bridges, and I brought in that magazine article we read in order to learn how to build stronger bridges. Then the next session we focused on mathematics, and we looked at a lot of data and graphs, and I shared that data tells a story example strategy for math that you should have put into the Canvas, your student samples. But the whole point of that data telling a story was so that the kids can engage in mathematics to figure something out, right? That's the whole point of what we're saying with these contextual dimensions. You, as a science teacher, are not a reading teacher, but in order for your kids to do science, they're going to engage in some literacy. So we're going to intentionally help them with that. Same thing with mathematics, technology, and 21st century skills. So our focus for this last session, we were going to combine technology and 21st century skills. Technology is really broad, so I didn't, go over a whole lot of that. But 21st century skills, this was something that that was a learning opportunity for me as we were developing the framework. Because when I think of 21st century skills, I do think of collaboration, critical thinking, creativity, and communication. But Dr. Whitworth out of Clemson, really brought a lot to the table. And informing us about how these other literacies can also be considered 21st century skills as well as life and career skills. What about that? This was our agenda. So we had a new phenomena that we were examining. So we did a talk, read, talk, write. We looked at some data, and then we did some advertising. And then finally, we closed out by talking about what to do at the end. So the first thing we did was our talk, read, talk, write. We talked about people that we know that are scientists or in a STEM field. The article here is from, I think it's EdWeek, and it talks about students' firsthand experiences, kind of helping students get interested in STEM jobs. So that was the article that we actually read. So we just started by talking about, do we know anybody in the STEM field, brother, sister, spouse, in-law, anything, had some pretty interesting careers come up. And then we read the article, and the title kind of does give a really good idea. So it talks a lot about how students need more hands-on experiences to get interested in these STEM fields. So we did our notice and wonder chart after we read the article, thinking about, why do we think this is, what's going on? A lot of really great conversation about that. And then we brainstormed like why we think it's happening and what we can do to help encourage our students to get into STEM careers. So we read that article, and I'm going to go actually back. So I had a bit.ly. So this bit.ly right here, the bit.ly/STEM_jobs, that is I published these slides to a URL. So that's the bit.ly for it. So you can go to that bit.ly, bit.ly/STEM_jobs, and you'll be able to get all of these slides. So you can go through them, and as you saw me do, you click on the article and you can read that. So after you're done reading the article, we jumped into data telling a story. This was a group activity. And really, so if you're sitting with some people, you guys can just talk with each other. I looked up the U.S. Department of Labor statistics, and we had two different pieces of data that we did if you remember from last session, there were 3 steps in data tells a story. Number 1, look, what's the purpose of this data? So don't analyze it yet, just figure out what's the purpose of it. And then number 2 is like, what's the story? What is it telling? And then number 3, how does it connect to our question? Our question, remember, after our notice and wondering was, how do we get our kids more interested in scientific courses? Right. So those are the 3 questions. So we broke the group into 2. One looked at this first graph, which is fastest growing occupations just in the United States, just period. And then the highest paying occupations. And so the conversations, as you can see, the fastest growing wind turbine service technician. It's pretty interesting. Nurse practitioner, data scientist, statisticians, information security analysts. All of these are STEM, be considered STEM careers. And then when you look at the highest paying occupations, it's a lot of medical, right? We do know that doctors make a lot of money. But of course, physicians, those are considered STEM careers. Is obviously a scientific field, right? So you're not an accountant, you're a scientist, you're a doctor. So we had those conversations about maybe opportunities. So we analyzed that data. Remember, this is contextual. We weren't just looking and being statisticians. We weren't just looking at data. The point of doing this data tells a story was to connect to our questions. Our question was, how do we encourage kids to get into STEM careers? Well, we could use this information to kind of persuade them or influence them to maybe start looking into these career paths. Step one is really, if you're a middle school teacher, start talking to when you to your high school counselor, what are the classes you want to sign up for? What kind of track are you going to be on? A lot of those decisions happen, around middle school. So it was a really good conversation. Okay, and then we jumped into our activity. So we did a raft. A raft is a writing assignment, really, or you can make it as creative as you want. But it stands for, you can see over here on the side, role, audience, format, and topic. I have actually modified the raft by adding another T for technology. And the reason I did that was because, we're talking about 21st century skills and technology. And it was, I believe that we need to, as educators, start clearly identifying the limitations of AI that students can use on our assignments. So like when you think about, you used to be able to say, write a 500-word essay on the life of Isaac Newton. Can't do that because the kids can just go to Copilot or ChatGPT and ask it to do it. And it's really hard for us to tell if they've used AI or not. So now I believe that it's important teachers to be very explicit about what AI is acceptable or how the students can use the AI in an acceptable way. So in this activity, the role that we took on, so I had the teachers sitting in groups by content. So all the chemistry teachers sat together, all the physics teachers sat together, grade levels 6, 7, 8 sat together, all that stuff. So their role was as science educators. Their audience was their students. The format was to create an infographic. And the topic was informing and encouraging their students to go into science or STEM careers. And then my technology limitations, I told them they could use AI to help them brainstorm. So Fort Worth, actually, Copilot is Microsoft's AI tool, and it is actually approved through Fort Worth ISD. You can click on this link, and it'll ask you to log in. You can log in with your WSD credentials. So it's a work account. And it looks very similar to ChatGPT. So you can really ask it anything. The stipulation I said was you could help it brainstorm. So I could ask, why should a 7th student look into a science? So I'm just brainstorming. I didn't say anything specific like geologist or medical or anything like that. I'm just using AI to do a little bit of brainstorming. So it says explain can be exciting reward path. Here are some reasons: curiosity, exploration, problem solving. There's lots of fields, and it just kind of goes on and on. So as an educator, of course, I'm okay with somebody, a teacher. I'm in charge of doing PD. I'd be okay if a teacher used this tool to brainstorm. There's another tool, Canva. If you have, everybody has a Canva account. You have to register as an educator, but if you register as an educator, you get a free pro version. You just have to put in like what school that you go to. Canva is in your class link. You can go right to it, but they have an AI tool as well. So the limitation I gave was that you can use Canva to create your infographic for AI to help, but it can't, I had to say this, AI can help, but it can't create the whole infographic. So I'm saying basically don't go into Canva if you have the pro account already set up and say, make me a 7th grade science infographic, encouraging students to get into stuff. So don't just put the prompt in. So that was me giving some limitations. And we submitted our projects into a Jamboard, and I'll just cycle through. I don't expect you guys to work together. Like I said, I believe there'll be some presenting going on as you're watching this. So I don't expect that it'd be kind of hard for y'all to work together, but you can kind of just sift through these. I do go into the slides and look through these. This was our 7th grade teachers. They had a really great thing. They put links in. Here's our, we had a couple group of physics teachers. This is just a general STEM infographic. Here we talk about highest paid, most competitive, quickest path. Megan was working. Here's another group of our engineering physics teachers talking about, you could create lowriders. What an interesting way to connect with the kids. That's pretty interesting. Our chemistry teachers had created this little infographic, level up your poison game, become a toxicologist. So, connecting with students, making it relevant. So just some great examples that we had from our session on Saturday. And that took us about halfway through our time. So we started talking about what is due at the very end. So this is the last session you are attending. This is the last one we will do in person. Stipend is a little different. In the past, you would have had to come back like a 4th time to present whatever it is your final project is. We're not doing that. You're just going to do the work and submit it through Canvas, just like we've been doing all year. So what is your assignment to be completely done? So the first thing is we've learned about all of the contextual dimensions, math, literacy, technology, 21st century skills. And so really what we're doing, this is called, so they call this typically like an overlay. So this is like a lesson plan overlay. This is not a lesson plan itself. It's just like, so you have your lesson plan. This is something like, think of like a transparency. You would fill it out and put on top of your lesson plan. So thinking into the future, and I will say, so I do know it's due April 9th. So this is due April 9th. What you will do by then is you will complete this lesson plan. So you're going to look into your future lessons that you got coming up, pick one SE, and then from that SE, think about like how you teach that TEK. And just big question, what are the kids trying to figure out? Like, so you can go into the lab or the explore, like what are you engaging the kids with to learn about that SE? And then I want you to pick 2 contextual dimensions to intentionally plan for. So you don't have to do all 4. So if you're going to do a reading assignment and then you're going to have them create something with technology, there's your 2 contextual dimensions. But remember, the big point of the contextual dimension is we are engaging in that context to figure out our science. So we're not just giving them extra math worksheets and we're not just giving them extra things to read. We are giving them intentionality with why they are doing these things. That's really the big idea behind these contextual dimensions, right? So you like to say, just like having kids work together on a worksheet, that doesn't really count as collaboration. It's like the kids are working together to solve this X problem or to figure this X thing out, right? So we want to make sure we're really intentional with, how we are engaging the kids in these contextual dimensions. And then as part of your plan, you'll put, so what will your student samples of those contexts be like? So if they're going to read, are they going to do a talk, read, talk, write? So then you wouldn't put the student samples here. You would just say, okay, well, here's what I'm going to collect to show my student work of the reading that they did or the math or how they use their technology. So this is just the plan, okay? So that's step 1. So you're, like I said, this is called like a lesson plan overlay. So you already have your lesson that you're going to do, and you're just intentionally thinking about these contextual dimensions and how you're going to engage the kids in, like I said, 2 of these 4. You don't have to do all 4. Okay. So after you have your plan, the next step is to actually do the lesson, right? And then the 3rd step is you will collect student work samples. So just like we've been doing for all of these sessions, you're going to, I'm going to say 3 samples for each contextual dimension. So if you're doing reading and technology, you have your plan. So it's going to be talk, read, talk, write. And your technology is the kids, the groups are going to create, it's like a flyer or a pamphlet or whatever. So you have your samples, you have your examples, of what you're going to collect. So you're actually going to collect those. So we'll do 3 student samples for each contextual dimension. And then in this document, if you scroll down, there is a reflection. So I'm going to have you just reflect on all that we've learned and talked about throughout this whole entire year. And that is what you will turn in So to kind of recap, in Canvas, I'll make the assignment soon, but in Canvas, what you will end up submitting is this Google Doc, which has your lesson plan and your reflection. And then you will upload at least 3 student samples. So 6 total student samples, 3 samples for one of the contextual dimensions and 3 samples of the other. And that is it. Right. Once again, that is due by April 9th. You have to have that by April 9th because I need to look through them, make sure they're all good, and then get your names over to Jessica for, getting the stipend, right? So that is it. We kind of wrapped things up. Once again, we've been talking about these contextual dimensions and how we engage the kids in these things in order to do the science. The science is the core part of that graphic, but surrounding that core, what is science, are these contextual pieces. How we get kids to learn science a lot of the times involves literacy, mathematics, technology, and 21st century skills. And we just want to make sure we're being intentional with how we utilize those contexts with our students in science class. So that is it. Thank you guys so much. You've really all been wonderful this year, and wherever you're at in the session, you can just, Jessica, I believe is presenting. So you have the time, I believe, to actually start working. We did finish early on Saturday, and I let people stay if they wanted to, or they could go. So you can actually start looking at your lesson plans, and you can actually start filling out the contextual, the overlay. You can start doing that now. So thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful evening, and it's been fun.